developer advocate, which if you're unfamiliar with the position, suppose you step back to developers, which many of you are. They're a simple machine that turns beer into software. So a salesperson, you'll probably guess, is a machine that can take and turn software to money. And then I take that money, I turn it back into beer, maybe tea, whatever else, buy some goodwill, buy some attention, turn it into community infrastructure credits that have been donated to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. We can get to that in a moment. But yeah, I talk to developers and hear about what needs are, and then keep a finger on the pulse of market and the community, and here with Equinix. And so Equinix is the world's digital infrastructure company. We have north of 230 premium interconnected data centers. And then Equinix Metal is a product that allows you to use bare metal as a service. And so it gives you on demand via an API for as little as an hour, a variety of machines in 18 of those metros around the world.
Oh, wow, that's great. And there's probably 2 points there. So first point with developer advocates, the thing that people usually get wrong is they don't advocate to developers, they advocate for developers. So if you're out there doing it, you got to do it that way to get it right. Anything on that point?
Oh no, it's very much to bring both the voice of the individual developer and the community at large back inside the company. So many of the open source projects that we work in have employees, and then giving software back to the community too. I have Tinkerbell on today. That's a project for provisioning bare metal that came out of previously called Packet, now Equinix Metal. And that's in the CNCF sandbox now.
Oh, wow.
And have donated other projects also, KubeVip for load balancing Kubernetes clusters.
Very cool. And so I think sort of on that same sort of thought stream, as I go around KubeCon every day, a lot of times when we're talking about these bare metal solutions, what I hear from a lot of companies is one day we want to get to where Equinix is in terms of the offerings, but also the experience. They're like, they have such a beautiful experience for developers. How do we ever get to that level? So you've got such a groundswell of people that love your solution, but then just talk about it from the developer side of getting this amazing experience. So what are you doing right that so many people, competitors are like, we got to be like them, and developers like, we love them so much?
We love our place in the market as we get to be a neutral place where our partners and customers connect. And so we have more partners and collaborators than we do have competitors. And how do you get there? I think it's hire developers and listen to developers, and not just developers who are working on your own proprietary bits, but right. Hire open source developers. Stephen talked to you about this, and I think in the keynote this morning was talking about, if you're at a company, cut off time for maintenance and upstream maintenance of open source software. And so it's not just, are you doing everything that the company needs, but spending time, allowing time, and allows you to hire folks who are very excited about open source too, and quality people who work well together.
And then for those developers, what are like some of the things that you're doing to make their lives so much better that they just love the experience?
So on the bare metal side, we found that developers love the performance, the lower overhead, flexibility that's offered, and developers don't generally love making a visit to the data center, whether it's a drive to Dallas or going to Tokyo. And so providing an API, and then on top of that API, making sure we connect with your favorite tools. And so writing providers for a cluster API, for Terraform, so that you can use the tools that you already know and love. Have done work recently that has added 18 different Kubernetes distributions. And so if you already have a favorite distribution, those are validated by whoever's running that distribution. So things like the Amazon's Kubernetes Service Everywhere, the Google Anthos, Mirantis, Code Zero. And so whatever flavor of Kubernetes that you're already into, we've made sure that it works well on our hardware and is well documented. And then from the partner side, that we're a cloud that you can deploy to easily.
And you also have a whole community around you too, right?
Correct. Yeah, a lot. So much of what we do is open source, and so we're happy to take in pull requests and issues and try and address any questions, fixes, or improvements that come up.
Because on one side, one customer said, "Hey, on this one company that I've worked for, the community is a getting started guide. There's no community, so I have no one to talk to. Is other people going through the same stuff that I have?" But on your side, you've got people, so they're never going to be in the dark, right?
Yeah, and then also, things that you can do to support the community are excellent documentation, hiring open source developers and maintainers, and the Equinix has made a commitment to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So if you look at the Community Infrastructure Lab, if you're an open source project, whether or not you're inside the CNCF, join the CNCF. But if you're in the CNCF, those projects are prioritized. But we have x86 machines, we have ARM machines that are there for you to use, and have donated $1 million worth of credits a year that you can use to either validate your project or do builds or host packaging it.
Very cool. And since we are at KubeCon, there, a lot of our audience say, "Okay, this is great. What are your big news and announcements? What happened at KubeCon with Equinix?" So what can we tell people?
So for KubeCon, it was validating and making sure that we work well with those 18 partners. I can, if you look for metal.equinix.com, you can see the laundry list. It's like the side of a NASCAR. And so there's very many of these. The idea is that we don't have any of our own managed Kubernetes service and are committed not to making one. The idea is that the existing ones, we want to play well and have them run well on our hardware, but don't think that's the best use of our efforts is to create something. And not just the best use of our efforts, but also we're committed to staying neutral. And so what's out there is great.
Very cool. And you also mentioned Tinkerbell. So what's going on there?
Yeah. So a lot of work's been done on Tinkerbell, an engine for provisioning bare metal. So much like yourself, to actualize, you need there's an entire hierarchy that you need to climb through. First, you need safety, and then you need to be fed, and eventually everything's great, and you finally your life is perfect. Bare metal, very much the same way. Bare metal can mean just a server in a crate, and so then we need to put it somewhere safe. That's inside the data center, and then you need to feed it. That's power, and then network, and then on top of that, before Kubernetes is actualization, I suppose. And so then you need an OS. Then you can finally get to Kubernetes, and so. Tinkerbell is what brings you from hardware that's plugged into hardware with an operating system on it, and then Kubernetes on top of that, if that's the way that you'd like to run. That's at tinkerbell.org if you'd like to.
Tinkerbell.org. There you go.
Yeah, if you'd like to contribute or try that, we have plenty of folks running trying that at home, running home labs, and then a bunch of different companies have been talking about their investigation of it.
Okay, very cool. And switching gears to some trend stuff. So with your unique perspective of end users and customers, what are the actual trends that you're seeing this year? What are some of the challenges, opportunities? What's going on?
There's a lot of demand for greater demand for services across the board. So your web chats, streaming, just like this, everyone is home. So there's a much greater draw on services like Zoom and WebEx, the streaming that you entertain yourself with beyond the news, the video gaming that you do, and so all of these companies we're seeing expand their footprint, and then new companies come to see us. It's and then working across the clouds, and so being a place where you can interconnect and have a direct connection to your AWS or GCP or Azure, and so we're seeing folks add metal to their existing setup.
Very cool. And then two things. So if you had to look into your crystal ball for next year, what is maybe one trend that you think is going to happen that you're very excited about? And then two, is there something that we're not talking about enough that's under the radar that you think is going to be a trend?
Trends that I see. So again, going back to the keynote, it looked like the number of CNCF projects has tripled since 2019. And so I think that the explosion of choice, and so instead of there being a handful of things, and you always know what's right, there's going to be a greater number of projects that are more tailored to particular uses, and I think that's only going to increase. I don't think it's something that's going to catch us by surprise, but I think that connecting to those companies, offering them resources, and then just it's going to be tricky to keep up on it, but I think we're up for it.
Okay, very cool. And then 3 more questions for you. So we'll get going down this as we start to wrap up here. So 1, what was your career journey like? So when you were 5, you're going to be, hey, I'm going to be doing this bare metal cloud solutions one day, developer advocate. And how did you get here, and what's that journey been like for you?
I can't even. My 5 years old was so long ago. I don't even remember what I'd like to be. But was always interested in computing, and always interested in entertaining folks and trying to figure out like what's new, what's interesting, and then have a very high need for stimulation. And so like going new places and talking to customers, hearing what uses are, going to conferences and seeing what might be coming next, and then ended up with Equinix. It's like building digital sandcastles, and so it's a digital infrastructure company. And while I do like to play with hardware and build things myself, being able to have the infrastructure that can be provisioned and brought up in minutes or seconds, depending on what's going on. Having those toys at your disposal is a great time, and then being able to offer those to folks who are making your favorite things is all the better.
Nice. And so here you are, right? Very cool. And then for those kind of on the same vein, someone out maybe today that's going to watch this, that's in middle school, high school, say, hey, I want to get a career in this space. Do you have like 1 or 2 tips of career advice for them?
Career advice? I would take in, look into open source projects that catch your interest. And it's, I was going to say as simple as, but not necessarily simple. There's a bit of ramp up, but like start reading documentation and think about how you would use this and how you can make it better. There are scholarships for things like KubeCon and Cloud Native Foundation conferences, and so those can be now attended virtually also. And so the content then goes on to YouTube. And so if you can start watching some of those videos and seeing what interests you, and then don't wait to start building things. If something catches your eye, try the product, try the project, and then once you have a good idea of what you like to do, you're able to talk about what you've built and what you'd like to see next.
Very cool. Okay, and then the last question. So as we kind of wrap up here, you also mentioned something about community credit. So if there's something there, but if people are like, hey, we really love Jeremy, are you on Twitter? Where can people follow you? And anything else in terms of resources, information people should go to learn more? Yeah.
So for bare metal as a service, you can go to metal.equinix.com. If you'd like to know more about Tinkerbell, that's tinkerbell.org. Myself, I'm on Twitter, Penguin, like the flightless bird. And
all one word?
All one word.
How did you get that?
Oh, so a long time ago. I think my Twitter account is old enough to have its own Twitter account. So 14 or so years.
To have children.
Yes. Nice. And then the CNCF's Community Infrastructure Lab. I can't remember the exact URL, but if you look for CNCF Community Infrastructure Lab, it should be the first or second result in Google, and that's a great way to get started with credits if you're working on an open source project.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, Jeremy, this is so great. Or at Penguin on Twitter. Loved hearing about Equinix, what you're doing, what you're working on. It's also great just the work you're doing on the community side and making developer lives easier. Definitely is resonating because I'm hearing that feedback firsthand. So huge congratulations to you for what you're doing there. Exciting to see the work that your company's doing, and also with Tinkerbell as well. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, I mean, thanks a little bit to me, but mostly to my team. I happen to be the one face here, but it's an entire organization. And have been very happy to see many of them for the first time at this conference.
In person.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you for having me.